Hello and welcome to the Outcast. I'm your host HC, and with me is.
Wolf.
And today we are back in the world of The Witcher with the new animated movie, which is now on Netflix for you to enjoy. The Witcher: Nightmare of the Wolf.
Hmm.
And it is not the Nightmare of the Wolf we are currently talking about, but I can assure you. Actually, I don't know. Why am I showing this wolf? Do your nightmares look anything like this?
No, it'd be nice if they did. Probably more fun.
Hmm. Like, would you hire Studio Mir to animate your dreams?
I don't have dreams, so they wouldn't have a lot to animate.
Okay, that got dark. But anyway, this new animated adaptation came out. Like for me, this came out really out of nowhere. Like I never heard that this is being made. I had no idea that this was coming out until one of my friends who is a really big Witcher fan, and if in case she is listening to this, hey, so she suddenly told me this is out, asked if I wanted to watch it with her. I said, yeah, sure, why not? And now we're here.
I knew there was an anime thing coming out. I didn't know it was going to be a movie, and I didn't know anything was going to be about. I just knew they're doing a Witcher anime, and I was like, huh, Witcher anime. Hmm, I'm interested. And that was it. And then here it is, all of a sudden, kind of out of nowhere. Like, very little pomp and circumstance put before this one. They just said, it's here, have fun. Like, oh, okay then. Thanks, Netflix.
Yeah. So, like, there was no real hype for this, even from your end. This was just something that dropped out of nowhere.
I'm not like super into The Witcher. I've read some of the books and I know some of the lore behind that, and I've played most of the games. I've more so focused on three. One and two didn't get into as much personally.
And by the way, just to, in case you haven't seen our Witcher season one review, I don't really have any experience with The Witcher, nor the books, nor the games outside of the show. Like it's just the show and this. So I'm the newbie here. Wolf has more experience than I do.
Mm-hmm. Well, jumping into it, newbie, what did you think?
I like this one more than than the show, if I'm honest.
Fair?
Like, don't get me wrong, it's not perfect. It's not like one of the best video game adaptations or book adaptations even, but I had a really good time with it, and I didn't have a chance to sadly do a rewatch before this review because I watched it a few weeks ago, back like a few days after it came out, but. I really enjoyed it, and I would recommend it. Like even if you're not into The Witcher, I would say this is. I would even say this is a good jumping point.
Yeah, there's not a lot. I don't think this is inherently based on, like, I don't think there's like, uh, uh,
This is something. This is something my friend told me. I'm not sure how accurate this is. Maybe I misunderstood. Maybe it's not one to one. But from what she told me, this is a prequel to the games,
well,
and not giving too much away. The ending kind of hints at it being, leading up to the books and the games and all that stuff.
yeah, like this focuses on Vesemir. Vesemir is essentially the mentor for Geralt, right? And this is everything's essentially a prequel to the games because the games are set after the books and after everything you've seen thus far. So if you're watching the live action show The Witcher, that is basically taking from the books and telling you the story of the books, right? And the games are set after the books because
But you say that, but at the same time, Geralt is the protagonist of the show too.
yeah, like again, the
So
show is retelling the books. The show is
Okay.
the story
No,
of the
because
show is the story of the books.
from what you said right now, like Geralt like came after the books. Or did I
No,
misunderstand you?
no.
Okay.
This movie focuses on Vesemir, Geralt's mentor,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
that's why you see young Geralt in this movie, like kid Geralt,
Yeah.
right? The books are all focused on Geralt for the most part, and Ciri. Or like the first book or two is focused on Geralt, then it's more so focused on Ciri and her story. And
Yeah.
the Witcher, the show, not this movie, not the games, but the show, the Netflix series live action show.
Yeah, is a return. Okay, I just got confused at some point.
Yeah, there you
Okay,
go. Like, yeah,
fair
the
enough.
show is just the books being retold in a show format, and the games are set after all that because they do their own thing. The games pull
Mhm,
from the world and the lore, but the games tell their own story. So
mhm.
everything's technically a prequel to the games because the games come after, but
Okay.
the stuff here, this is a prequel. This Nightmare of the Wolf is a prequel because it focuses on Vesemir.
Mhm. From what I've heard, like from my friend anyway, there seems to be a lot of characters in here that are kind of like stand-ins to characters from the games or
See,
the books. Like that,
well, there's
there's
characters
like
here
the,
that you'll meet in the books or that you'll meet in the games and stuff, but I don't
yeah,
feel
but like
there's
yeah,
stand-ins.
like
Depends on
no,
what you
no,
mean by that.
there are like okay, so like at some point, you know what? I'll keep it for the spoilers, even all unless
Oh,
you have any kind of
let
non-spoiler
me
to say.
ask you this, right? When you say
Mhm.
stand-in, do you mean like, oh, this character is kind of like Haskier or Dandelion, or do you mean
Yeah, like okay, maybe just to give kind of some sort of a comparison to that may not be very favorable, but hear me out on this. Kind of like how Winger is the not toothless. You know what I mean?
yeah, I get you. Okay, so I've seen a few people say that.
It's not the same character, but the character serves the same idea, the same kind of
Yeah,
ability, the same
okay,
kind of
yeah. I get you.
mhm.
I've seen a few people say that. I inherently disagree, but we'll get to that in spoilers, I suppose. But like before we jump into spoilers, I would like to talk about animation at least. It looks amazing. This is something that is, I feel, inherently stylized, and it's Studio Mir's style. And if you're not familiar
Yeah,
with
no.
Studio Mir, they're the people behind Dota Dragon's Blood, Kipo and the Age of Wonder Beasts, more
And like
specifically, Legend of
85
Korra,
I was about to say 85% of the Legend of Korra. But yeah.
Voltron, Legendary Defender, and the Boondocks, right? Like, these people are good. They know what they're doing.
Mhm.
They've done a lot of,
Most
really good
definitely.
shows.
No, like their animation is amazing, and this show is no exception. And I
Yeah.
also kind of like it that and then, this is not much of a spoiler, but that they allow them to do like maybe the invincible thing that you can just animate whatever the hell they could animate gore, they could animate something that's a bit more violent. I like how animated studios, especially something like Mir, can actually get the opportunity to do stuff like this
I
because
mean,
it allows them to also stand out.
you see a
Oh,
dude get his arm cut off and still keep going, right? Like, it's just,
yeah,
they go
there you
hardcore with
go.
it.
Hmm.
And I also, there's just a lot of, but for me, right, it was interesting because the Witcher, like the Witcher kind of quote unquote fighting style, has always been talked about in the books and the games as this truly unique thing to the Witchers and how they fight because they are superhuman. And so for me, hearing that, oh, they're doing an anime Witcher, it was very interesting because anime's pretty much, I would say, known for, like, the big thing of anime is its fight scenes, right? And how it does its fight scenes and how they're so different from stuff you'll see within the West, right? So
Hmm.
seeing Witcher anime, very much had me interested because how are they going to explore that, or where are they going to take like the Witcher fighting style? Considering they are superhumans, they can do a lot more with that, and I think they
Hmm.
do great with that here. Like,
Oh no, they do it wonderful. Like again, not giving anything away before the spoilers, but like the final fight,
Mm.
like the final action sequence, man, beautiful.
Yeah, like they definitely don't hold back, and you get the feeling that these are superhumans. They're not ordinary normal people. They're doing stuff that's very much out of the ordinary. That's very much amazing to watch, and it feels that way. And I think they nailed it.
Mhm.
Like if I, when I picture anime Witcher, this definitely fits that bill. I feel right.
Yeah, I would agree. So moving on to spoilers.
Yeah, yeah. Like animation, light, all the stuff that goes into that lighting, like the art, all of that
And
was
and I
great,
would
and the
also
music too.
say And I would also say that if you're not super into The Witcher in terms of you never really played or read or something, I'd say this is a good one to
Oh,
start with.
yeah,
Don't
yeah, I was gonna mention that
don't
too.
feel don't feel annihilated by it. You can totally get into it.
Yeah, there's you, not knowing, like, there's things here that, like, if you've read the books or if you've played the game, stuff like that, like, oh, I know that character. I know that character at this point, so it's cool to see them in the past, but it's not something you have to know. Like, you can come into this completely blind, completely new. You'll still have a lot of fun with it. Like, the story here is very much self-contained. It fits with everything else, but it's very much self-contained and works very well.
Also, so spoilers in three, two, one. Still here, good. So a lot of people die, not necessarily main characters, but
Well, the main
a lot of
character can't
people.
die, HC. He's got to live to a ripe old age.
I said main characters, like not necessarily someone from the main cast. I mean, because there are a lot of, casualties
No,
which
I'd,
are
I'd say
unnamed
one of the main
characters.
characters die.
I, listen to me when I say that most deaths. I know there's one main character that we do lose.
Okay, fair enough. I didn't hear the most. That's my fault.
Mhm.
But yeah, speaking of story, this follows Vesemir, as we said, and this is his, hey, here's Vesemir as a kid, and him very unusually wanting to become a Witcher. That's not exactly a
Yeah.
common thing, and that's very unique to Vesemir, it seems. I
Mhm.
don't, as I've
Which,
said
by the
before,
way, I want to say that one of the things that if you go back to our original Witcher review, like the first season of the show, you might recall me saying that I never really knew when it's a flashback and when it's present time. It was getting hard to distinguish, but
mhm,
here not only do I actually like the flashbacks a lot more, but it's also really interesting flashbacks. Like it's a good. I enjoyed the flashbacks and the non-linear storytelling a lot more here than
mhm,
I did in the show.
well, I feel right, like as we said before, like the show's probably not going to be doing that as much anymore. And the show did have a reason for doing it, and that was kind of to be in line with the books to a degree. But I do agree, like it wasn't done well at times, and it's definitely hard to nail down when it isn't, right? But yeah, here it's very easy to tell, like, oh, this is a flashback. There's no misunderstanding at this point. But yeah, like I think getting into characters, I think the characters are done great here. Some people may not like Vesemir's character in this one because it's very different from Geralt. Like Vesemir is very much, I'm here for the money. I don't care about anything else.
Mhm.
Nothing else matters to me beyond being able to live a good life for myself, and I need money to do that. So that's what I'm doing these jobs for, not because I want to be helpful. Like Geralt, you always have this, I'm neutral, so I'm not going to get involved. But then I do get involved, and I eventually slowly come out of being neutral because I realize being neutral doesn't do me any good and I need to be involved because not getting involved ends up getting in more people getting hurt and killed when I can do something about it. And Geralt's very much, I would argue, and will continue to say, is a himbo,
Mhm.
and a lovely, wonderful himbo who I love to death. But yeah, he is a himbo and he's very much,
Yeah,
he's not
but
so much in it for the money. He's doing it for the money, but as time goes on, he's more and more and more doing it
which
because
is
he
actually
realizes
one of the
nobody else
things I
can and
liked
he
about
needs to.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like you
which
see
is
him
what I
grow.
kind of yeah, which is what I kind of liked about him in the season of the show that we watched last time. But at the same time, I'm also glad that Vesemir isn't the same.
Yeah.
Just because kind of we talked about the Angel of Korra before, so but also like how well the Avatar is like a title that's been moved from a person to a person. That person doesn't have to be the same in terms of personality as its predecessors. So I like the fact that we already have Geralt as this kind of hero that he's doing things for the money. He's doing things for kind of a for some sort of self benefit, but he's at the end of the day, he's mutual. He's just doing what the one needs to be done. So here, seeing Vesemir
Well,
as
you see
like,
him grow out of
uh,
that too, though, as well, which is
yeah,
enjoyable to see.
yeah. But the point is that he has this kind of, he starts as a certain type of
Yeah.
character and develops
Grows.
from
Yep.
that.
Yep.
Yeah, and Vesemir is, and it's so interesting to see Vesemir, the guy who had the title before him and would go on to mentor him, come from like a different place, a different kind of expectations, and a different kinds of wishes and wants, and yeah, why not? He's not Geralt, he's someone else, and it doesn't just because it's not the ideal thing to want, it doesn't they still he's still likable enough. I still want this guy to get what he wants, and you can still see he cares for the people around him. He's still a fun protagonist to go on an adventure with.
Like you can absolutely see, like, even in the very tail end of the movie, right? You can see that there is this, there's some morals that are there, but you can also see, compared to Geralt, it's a lot less, at least at this time, right? Which,
He's
it,
willing to compromise more, I
yeah,
think.
like he's willing, yeah, he's willing to like sell his morals short if it means getting more gold, essentially. Yeah, and I agree with that. Like, because at the very beginning of the movie, right, you see this noble family get killed, and you see that, oh, it's a Leshen that killed him, and Vesemir comes in and kills the Leshen, and there's this one little boy who's a survivor, and Vesemir, takes his family's gold as payment for killing the Leshen, and little boy asks, hey, could you help me get back to town? What am I supposed to do? And you get a fast forward to the little boy talking to another of our main characters. I believe his name is. It does not have her on here. Great. Thanks, Wikipedia. What are you used for, Wikipedia? God.
Um,
Tetra, that's it. Tetra
yeah, I
Gilchrist.
was about to ask what are the chances it's Tetra.
Yeah, you see the
I
little boy talking with Tetra, and like she asks him, hey, what did the Witcher tell you? He told me smile and cry to get a ride back to the village, and smile and cry to get a helping hand and some food on my plate and stuff. And as he took all of their gold, like, damn, Vesemir, you did this kid dirty. But yeah,
yeah,
that's Vesemir, like that's his character. You're not really supposed to be rooting for him necessarily, and you're not really rooting for a lot of the Witchers. Like, a lot of the Witchers are kind of dicks,
hmm
but it's also kind of, there's a reason for them being assholes, right? Like they're the ones doing the jobs
it's
that no part of
yeah,
humanity wants to do,
it's
right?
mhm. It's one of those. This is also the kind of universe that's
Well, at least it is at this time, right? Like the Witchers firmly believe without them, humanity would die to the monsters. But because the Witchers exist, right, a lot of the monsters are being killed, so there's less need for Witchers, so humanity feels more safe. But problem is because they feel more safe, they now starting to see the Witchers as monsters, and in comes Tetra, flaming these fears about the Witchers and how evil the Witchers are, right, and how the Witchers are creating monsters to have stuff to fight to take advantage of people and trying to convince people of that.
mhm.
And that's kind of the crux of our conflict of this
And
movie.
yeah, and there's also something that I'm not sure how much I actually like it or not. Like that, that like what's her name? Like Lady Liana, I think
Ilyana,
that's
yes, Lady Ilyana.
Liana.
Yeah, the Vesemir's, childhood friend.
Yeah, so there's something that I actually really like and really also kind of about that. You know, he meets his like that he has this childhood friend who he then meets when he then meets a few few hundred years
Not
afterwards, and
not a few
you,
hundred. There's 70.
you say okay, fine, exaggeration, but still that when he meets her again after all of this time, you can see that she's really old and really and really all the white hair and stuff. She's like 1 foot in the grave, as they say.
Yeah, yeah.
And he still looks like he's like in his 20s or 30s, and it's like hmm.
Well, you
On
can
the
also
one hand, I kind of like it, but on the other hand, it's like maybe it's good that it's animated. I can buy it a bit more like that.
that's fair. I think if it was live action, it would probably be harder to do. Sure, but it is interesting that they show these two still having feelings for one another, especially Vesemir, right?
Oh,
Still has feelings for
mhm.
Ilyana even after all this
Because
time. They even get a kiss
and
scene, and like in the kiss, Ilyana says like, I'm 70, and Vesemir's like, so am I, and then they kiss, right?
yeah,
It's again, it
that actually
shows the difference
that
between these
actually
two and how they
that
age.
actually that's a line that actually got me to laugh a bit. It's like because by all accounts they're not wrong.
Mhm. But yeah, like
Like by
I
they're both actually 70, so yeah, that works.
I think it's a really clever and interesting way, right, to show how Witchers age and just how slowly they age and how long they can live for, right? It's clever. It's interesting, I think.
Mhm. And the thing is that also, isn't Liliana married actually?
She's
In
widowed. She did
she's
get
widowed,
married, but
right?
she's widowed. Her husband
Right, she's
died.
widowed. Okay, okay. So I remembered half of it. Okay,
But yeah, like
but
the story here is basically, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I don't know if this is based specifically on something from the books, but I do know in the books at some point it's mentioned that Kaer like the Witcher fort, where a lot of the Witchers used to live and work out of, is attacked by essentially a mob of, villagers and such who, again, seeing the Witchers as monsters, want to kill the Witchers. And it's mentioned that it's an extremely bloody battle and very few survivors came from it other than Vesemir and, a few boys, which is Geralt and Eskel and Lambert, right? Who we see at the end of this movie. And
by the way, speaking of that ending, I think considering we know what they're doing with this, they're like leading up to Geralt and everything.
yeah,
I
well,
think the movie ended on like the perfect note. Like
yeah,
this,
I
like
was
if you were going to end this, this is how I would want it to end.
Oh, absolutely. It's
So
actually worth mentioning, right? Like they have the show coming up soon as well, later this year potentially.
yeah, the second season.
And the first season, when we ended, we got a glimpse of Geralt, hearing Vesemir say Geralt's name, right? So I think it's
Hmm.
what I assume Netflix is doing is, hey, here's what Vesemir was like in the past. Now we're going to go into our main show with the spin-off series. Now we're going to go into our main show and show
Which
you Vesemir when he's older, which I think is actually really clever
it's really clever,
if
but
they're
also
doing it
makes
that
you
way.
yeah, but also makes you wonder if Vesemir is gonna show up in the live action show.
Oh, he
Is it
is.
gonna yeah, obviously, but like, is it going to connect to this? Like, is it gonna be like the voice actor
Well,
coming in as the live action version, or
okay,
is it
that
just like
probably not, but well, I think it's this movie's, again, when it's set timeline wise, it, even if they don't get, like, say, the voice actor to come in or something like that, it doesn't matter because timeline wise this doesn't disrupt anything, right? Like this doesn't say, oh, this is
no?
wrong, or it fits very well from a story perspective, right?
Again, I'm just gonna try to
I do
question
get you.
here.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not saying that this is what they should do.
No, no, I get you. I think if it's what they're doing, I think it's quite clever. If whether they link back to it or not, I still think it's quite clever. If that's not what their plan was, then they were accidentally clever, I suppose.
Mhm.
Because
Well,
unlike something that we have already covered or will cover soon, this gets you hyped in a much better way for what's to come.
mhm. Well, there are things and there are things, as
Looking
they
at you,
say.
Resident Evil Infinite Darkness.
Ugh, why? We moved on from that. Just why?
Well, now you spoiled it. They'll know that we covered that first, and this is coming out first.
Who cares? It's Resident
You
Evil
can't
Infinite
date the
Darkness.
videos,
Who cares?
HC. You can't
Who?
date them.
Wolf. Who cares?
But yeah, like this is very well done. I mean, you mentioned something earlier, right? I would like to go back to as well, real quick.
Sure.
Stand-ins. Who do you think is a stand-in for who exactly?
Okay, so
Because I can
again, I
imagine
am.
there's who is Tetra a stand-in for? I'm curious.
So yeah, so I think so. From what I heard, Tetra is the one that goes on the quest with Vamir and use the magical spells, right?
Yeah, she's the
Okay.
sorceress.
So again, this is like from watching this with my friend. I asked her that question. She said not exactly. I just said that this is like supposed to give you that idea that maybe she's like the not Yennefer of this movie.
Okay, yeah, yeah, I disagree, but I get it. Sorceress,
Yeah,
so gotta be Yennefer. But yeah, like
yeah. No,
it's.
again, not in terms of the character itself, like in
Mhm.
terms of behavior or characteristic, just in terms of, you know, oh, there's a sort of that this is the sort of vibe that they're trying to get to you, like because if Geralt has Yennefer, then Vesemir has Tetra.
That's fair. I I get
I
it.
know,
I
I
disagree,
know.
but I
It's
do get
Yeah,
it.
I
Like,
get
right.
it. I get it again that it's not it's not one to one. I'm just saying though that if you need to fill the quota to the kind of characters that are here, and in terms of their
Mhm.
role in the team and everything, then this is kind of what it was supposed to be.
No, yeah, I get you. Like that's how it works when they're adventuring together before they become enemies and have to kill one another, right? I do get it. Like it makes sense. It's I don't firmly personally agree with it. I think she is more separate than that. But if you're looking for comparisons, I suppose it doesn't not fit, right? To some
Mhm.
degree. But yeah,
Yeah.
you know, looking at their relationship once again, it's something that's very different from Geralt and Yennefer's, right? Which again, I think is very good. It's nice that people, while people want to make these comparisons, I think it's nice that these comparisons don't quite work, and these characters are different enough that yeah, this isn't Vesemir isn't Geralt, Tetra isn't Yennefer, and stuff like
I
that.
I like it too that they stand out more. I'm just
Mhm.
saying though that them general role to play in the fight party is kind of the same.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, speaking of Tetra, let's talk about the final fight scene, the big siege on Kaer Morhen, where we have all of those monsters come in
There's
and all the
there's
Witchers
so
fighting.
like, there's so much going on there, but again, this is
But
again
you can
because
easily follow all of it too, I feel. Like there's a lot going on, but it feels followable.
yeah, I will say though that it's cool at the start and it definitely ends on a strong note, but also by the time at some point even all of the action starts getting tiring a bit, and because the fight also kind of happens like the last 30 minutes of this whole thing is the
Mhm.
fight.
Well, maybe.
And at some point it's like you could have like cut maybe 5 or 10 minutes of this. Like at some point, I think I even told my friend like, "Okay, we get it. Let's move it along just a bit."
I don't know. I mean, I'm personally fine with it. Like, I would have
No,
liked more story or more character moments, right? To get more into Vesemir's character when he's at this point in his life. But I still enjoyed it because, like, it's just a bunch of action scenes, and I just want to see Witcher animated and just see the action scenes because it's fun, right? So I mean, for
no.
me,
Again,
it's
the action scenes themselves are great, and the final fight is also pretty great. But it's also at some point it's okay. We get it. It's already there's already a lot of stuff going on that it's kind of hard to follow.
yeah, yeah,
Let
and
let's we can cut a bit.
yeah, and what am I mean? What my point is that I'm fine with that. I don't think they need to cut it because again, it makes it feel more like a siege as well. Like it's one big
Yeah,
battle to take over this castle slash fort area, right? Kaer Morhen. So
yeah,
it feels like a siege, and from coming from experience with the Witcher lore and the world building already, right? Hearing about the siege of Kaer Morhen, this and now seeing the siege of Kaer Morhen, like all right, these two things feel like they fit together. Like this bloody battle that killed a lot of people and basically took the Witchers down from a fairly strong couple hundred number to 4 or 5, and that's it at best, right? It
yeah. I got
This
you.
feels like that moment that you've heard so
Mhm,
much about leading up to this point.
mhm. Yeah, I get you. That obviously, I assume it's a bit more impactful to you than me. But like you said,
That's fair.
when you read about this event for so long and then you get to see it, that does sound like something that's really satisfying.
Mhm.
So, and I'm glad that it is satisfying, because there could also be a risk of we heard about this event so much and then it doesn't live up to the hype.
Yeah,
But I seem to get from you that it does live up to
I
that
am
hype.
absolutely think it does. I think everything they did here, lives up to the hype of what the books and the show and the games and everything has set up before it, but also still manages to stand on its own as its own thing, right? It's not just telling us that story, it changes some stuff up to make it work better, I feel, and gives us something very unique to it, right? I probably wouldn't be talking as highly about this if Vesemir just felt like Geralt 1.0. I don't think it would be as enjoyable if that was the case. I think it's very much I'm glad Vesemir is the way that he is and acts the way that he acts. Because if it was any different or if it was too much like Geralt, I don't think it would be as good. I don't think it would work as well. If all we got was, hey, here's Geralt 1.0 and here's Yennefer 1.0 and here's Dandelion 1.0, that's just not going to be as enjoyable. And I'm glad they
No,
didn't do that here.
I completely agree. I'm glad that they're not just 1.0 versions of these characters. I'm glad they're not, you know, hey, these are the exact same, but we have a different name from them. Again, it's just a really well made movie, which honestly, if you're a Witcher fan and you made it this far, like, you should obviously you would have watched it because we're in the spoilers category, but
Hmm.
yeah, just it's a great movie. That's really all I have to say.
Yeah, like yeah, yeah. Again, even if you're not a Witcher fan, if you walk into this, you're still
Yep.
going to walk out enjoying it. I feel because you don't need to know
Again,
anything about The Witcher other than what this movie gives you.
again, I only saw the first season of the show, and I managed to follow it
You know,
completely fine, and I had a great time.
speaking of that, I think it's worth asking. Actually, do you think you would have enjoyed The Witcher more if you started with this than the show, or
Uh, I am not entirely sure because, with the exception of the tease at the end with Geralt, there's not much of a connection between this and the
well,
show.
do you think this would have got you more interested in the show if you would have watched this first? Do you think you would have been like, yeah, I want more Witcher
Mm,
stuff. I want to know more about this. Do you think you would have
I
jumped into the
guess,
show?
I guess, like, I would have been interested, and then if you told me that, the boy from the end is the main protagonist in the show, I'd be like, oh, okay, and I would have been more interested to check it out.
That's fair.
So, yeah, I would have said so. Yes.
That's fair. That is very fair. Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah. I don't think there's too much to say. I enjoyed, again, the fight scenes was great. Seeing like a one-armed Witcher have to fight with and using his stump to cast the magic spells and stuff was very unique, very fun. Seeing how the Witchers weren't always the kind of better good guys that Geralt and co have portrayed them as, and that the Witchers were kind of very much flawed. And you see that our kind of big bad in this film is created because one of the Witchers by the name of Declan was trying to create new monsters to hunt.
Mhm.
And it's cool that Vesemir catches on to that, and you have Vesemir have to face his mentor and everything, and then they have to then, after trying to kill one another, fight side by side one another to try and save their own lives and the lives of everyone there from the true big bad Tetra, who's basically just there to try and get revenge for her mother being killed by a Witcher who just killed her for the coin.
Mhm.
And because, again,
Mm,
that particular Witcher
Point
wasn't a
is
good
that,
person.
yeah, point is that toss a coin to your Witcher song is actually satanic and you shouldn't support it.
As far as Tetra would be concerned, yes.
Yeah,
If she heard that
that's what
song, she would be very upset.
yeah, that's a joke.
Saviors of
Don't.
humanity, her ass.
Mhm.
But yeah, like everything about this movie, looks great, sounds great. Like I love the designs, and I love that we
Now,
finally get to
so
actually see something very
before.
interesting, right? The Trials of the Grasses, which kills a
Mhm.
lot of young boys, right? And they just do not care. And like you see the ambivalence of it all, right? Like the nonchalance and, hey, you're gonna die and you're a young kid. We don't care. We need Witchers. Here you are. Like
Mhm.
it's
Uh,
again, I love seeing they don't shy away from how harsh this world is, right?
yes.
But
But before
what
we
you want to
wrap
say?
up, I do have a question for you. Would you like to see a sequel film to this? Because I wouldn't
Ooh,
mind.
hmm. I If I got it, I would be very interested, but I'm not seeking it out, right? It's not something I desire or desperately need or want. I'm happy with where this ends, right? I think
Yeah,
for
fair enough.
me, I think if they did it, I think what would be very enjoyable because you see Eskel and Lambert at the end with Geralt as well. I think it would be very enjoyable to see, hey, here's a movie that focuses on Eskel because Eskel's not someone you're going to see necessarily in the main show all that much, I feel, but he is important to Geralt's story to some degree. He does appear up here and there and do stuff. Same with
Hmm.
Lambert as well. Like I think it'd be very interesting to see those two characters maybe get their own spin-off movies and see them doing their thing and how they go about stuff, right? I think that'd be very interesting and very unique.
Yeah. So maybe on a sequel. If it comes up, sure. If not, no
I think
real need to get
I
to it.
I would also say the same of maybe a movie focusing on Siri and the future with her, after the show, potentially. Stuff like that. I think, continue making these, but do stuff that's also set apart from Geralt's story, which I think the main show is going to cover, which I would say the main show has been covering fairly well, and I hope continues to do so. I
Mhm.
don't necessarily think I need more Vesemir. I feel like this gives me enough, but I wouldn't mind more Vesemir. I like Vesemir. Vesemir's great.
Yeah. So guess we'll wait and see about that,
Hmm.
and we'll be here to cover it if it ever exists.
True.
So, with all that said, I suppose this is all for this episode of the Outcast. We hope you enjoyed. What are your thoughts about the Witcher animated movie? You can tell us all about it in the comment section below, on our Tumblr, which is Berkcast Team, and on our Twitter, which is Berkcast with a capital B, capital C. So until next time, I was HC,
I was Wolf.
and we will see you all next time. Take care.
Bye bye.